When I was 17, my mom said, "You're dead to this family. Don't come back without success." She changed the locks that night. 20 years later, I watched her cry in court as she was evicted for fraud. Now she calls me every day from a motel, whispering, "Please send money." But today I was 17 the last time I saw the inside of that house. My duffel bag was already in the car when Mom said it. She didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even blink. Just looked at me like I was a smudge on the table she was tired of wiping off. "You're dead to this family. Don't come back without success." Then she turned around and walked back inside. I didn't have keys anymore. That night, the locks were changed. I wasn't caught doing drugs or flunking out of school or stealing or anything like that. No, I was kicked out because my older brother, Lucas, had just landed a city job and his girlfriend was moving in with him. They wanted my room. Simple as that. I was the spare, the backup kid. And since Lucas was bringing home a paycheck and shiny enough accomplishments to make the neighbors gossip, suddenly there wasn't space in the house for a second son who was still figuring things out. They made it sound like it was for my own good. That I needed to learn how to be a man. That I'd thank them one day. But the truth was crueler. I was inconvenient, and my brother's success gave them the perfect excuse to get rid of me. I remember standing in the driveway, holding a bag of clothes and a folder with my community college enrollment papers, realizing I had no home. I took a bus to Cincinnati that same week. My mom's cousin lived there, and through some last-minute mercy, her husband said I could crash in their basement for a few months. They didn't know what to do with me either, but at least they didn't pretend I was family one moment, and then toss me like trash the next. I worked at a gas station first. Took any extra shifts I could get. I finished school in chunks. Met my wife, Sarah, in an adult education accounting class when I was 24. We got married a year later, had our first kid by 27. Second followed 2 years later. I didn't try to reconnect with my parents. Not once. I figured they were happy, riding Lucas's coattails. His girlfriend became his wife. I heard they got a place together with a pool. A nice car. Dad was always bragging about how Lucas made the family proud. I was just some footnote they didn't mention anymore. For 20 years, not a word. Not a text, not a letter, not even a birthday card for the kids. And honestly, I didn't expect one. I didn't even tell my own kids about them. They grew up knowing my wife's parents as their only grandparents. I figured some things are better left buried. And then last week, out of nowhere, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, I had to play it back 3 times. It was my mom's voice. Soft, hoarse, almost unfamiliar. "Ethan, I don't know if you'll even listen, but we need to talk. Please. It's important. Please call me back." I didn't. Not that day. Not the next. But curiosity has a way of clawing at you. I ended up Googling their address out of sheer boredom. And that's when the first real surprise hit. The house was listed as foreclosed. Auction pending. That's when the second call came in. Not my mom this time. It was Lucas. I hadn't heard his voice since I was a teenager, but I knew it instantly. He was frantic. Talking fast. Begging. Their accounts were frozen. Their assets seized. Fraud charges. IRS investigation. He kept saying it wasn't his fault, that someone had misled them, that they were victims of a financial scheme. Then he said it. The words that I never thought would leave his mouth. "We need your help." 20 years gone, and just like that, they remembered I existed. I agreed to meet them the next morning. Not because I missed them. Not because I wanted to fix anything. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. The collapse. The fallout. After 20 years of silence, they suddenly remembered I existed, and I needed to know why. They were holed up in a tired-looking motel off Route 38. One of those weekly rate places where the front desk is behind bulletproof glass and the vending machines eat your money without apology. I knocked twice. There was a pause, long enough to make me think they might not answer, and then the door opened. It was Mom. She looked smaller somehow, like the years had drained the weight right out of her. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine for a second, then away. She didn't say anything, just moved aside and let me walk in. The room smelled like mildew and reheated takeout. Dad was on the bed surrounded by stacks of legal papers, flipping through them like there might be a version that told a better story. Lucas was pacing in the corner, wearing a hoodie that looked too expensive for the situation they were in. His wife sat on the edge of the bathtub, arguing on speakerphone with some attorney about frozen accounts. The TV was on mute, showing a news ticker that might as well have been about another planet. Nobody said they were happy to see me. Nobody asked about my kids or my wife, or where I'd been all these years. They just got to the point. Lucas had been caught running a fake investment firm. It started as a consulting business, then turned into a Ponzi scheme. People lost money. A lot of it. When it all came crashing down, he pulled my parents into it, used their names, their credit, their house. They'd signed everything without asking too many questions. Trusting Lucas. The golden child. Their pride. Now the government had the house. The accounts. Everything. Court was in 2 days. Fraud charges. Eviction order. Outstanding fines. They were already halfway out the door. All they needed now was someone to help. Buy some time. I listened. I nodded. I asked a few questions, mostly just to hear how they'd spin it. Nobody took real responsibility. Lucas kept saying they were victims of bad advice. Dad blamed the banks. Mom didn't say much, she just stared at the floor like it might split open and swallow her. I told them I'd think about it. Then I left. Mom followed me out into the parking lot. She said my name like it was a prayer. Asked if I remembered the spare key under the flower pot by the front steps. Of course I remembered. It stayed there even after they changed the locks. The next morning, I went to the courthouse. I sat in the back, didn't say a word. Just watched. The judge was calm, direct. The charges weren't minor. They weren't misunderstood. Lucas knew what he was doing, and the paper trail proved it. My parents were named in the documents, their signatures all over the property transfers and credit lines. The judge issued the eviction order without hesitation. They had 7 days to vacate. Mom cried when the words were read out loud. Not loud sobbing, just that quiet kind of crying that you don't try to stop. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Lucas didn't blink. He was still in control in his head, like he thought he'd talk his way out of this somehow. I walked out before they saw me. That night, I made 2 calls. One to a lawyer I trusted. One to a financial guy I'd worked with before. I asked what it would take to clean the slate, get them off the hook, stop the court process, get them into a rental with a few months' buffer. The answer came back quick, about $30,000, give or take. I wired the money the next morning. No call. No warning. No message. Just an anonymous payment, with the account details buried in the routing instructions. My name was on it, but barely. They knew, though. Within 2 hours I got a call from my mom's number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail I still haven't deleted. She was crying again, whispering that they didn't deserve it, that she was sorry, that she wished she'd done everything differently. I let the message play through. Once. Then again. And then I put my phone down. For the first time in 20 years, I didn't feel angry. Just empty. 3 days after the wire hit their account, Lucas sent me a text. No thank you. No explanation. Just an address and a thumbs up emoji. It was a small rental house on the far edge of town. Cheap, forgettable neighborhood. I ignored the message. I figured that was the end of it. I'd done more than enough. Then, on Sunday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I was in the backyard patching up a fence post. My wife was inside with our daughter baking something that was turning the whole house into a sugar cloud. Our son was in the garage braking and fixing the same scooter for the 5th time that week. Normal Sunday stuff. I opened the door, and there she was, my mother. Holding a cardboard box like it was the Ark of the Covenant. She didn't say hi, didn't ask if she could come in. Just stood there, blinking fast like she hadn't practiced what to say past the walk to the door. Said she found some of my things in storage, thought I might want them. Old notebooks. A few school papers. My 3rd grade baseball glove. A faded sketchbook. I didn't invite her in. I didn't even say much. Just stood there while she set the box down and said she was thankful for what I'd done. She tried to smile before she turned around and walked back to an Uber that was waiting down the block. I watched it drive away until it disappeared around the corner. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat at the dining table and opened the box. At first, it was just stuff. Nothing I'd missed. But near the bottom, wedged inside an old high school planner, was something that didn't belong, printouts of an email chain. Dozens of pages. Back and forth between Lucas and someone named Brent Warner. I didn't recognize the name, but it was all business talk, land transfers, hidden liabilities, dummy corporations. And then there it was, my dad's name in a reply. Looks good to me. As long as the house is protected, I don't care what name's on the papers. That was dated 2 years before the indictment. They knew. They were in on it. It wasn't some innocent mistake. They weren't victims. They played a part, willingly. Lied to my face in that motel room, sat there asking for help like they'd been blindsided. I stared at those pages for a long time. I thought about my wife, asleep upstairs, the kids just down the hall. I told them almost nothing about my family. Always said it was just complicated. Truth was, I was trying to protect them from the chaos I grew up in. And now here I was, neck deep in it again. The next morning, I drove by the rental house. I wasn't planning to go in. I just wanted to look. See how they were living. Maybe say one final thing if I had the nerve. But something was off from the moment I pulled up. There was a car in the driveway. A black BMW. Too new. Too polished. Not the kind of thing someone drives after a foreclosure and a fraud investigation. A woman I didn't recognize stepped outside with 2 bags of groceries, dressed like she just walked out of a spa. A few seconds later, Lucas followed her out. He was laughing. They kissed. That wasn't his wife. I stayed parked down the block. Watched as he helped carry the bags inside like this was just a regular Tuesday. Like the last 2 months hadn't happened. He was clean, unbothered, smug. And just like that, the pieces started to connect. I followed him, not closely, just enough to keep an eye on where he went next. 15 minutes later, he pulled into a gated complex across town. I waited a while, then drove past the entrance. Upscale apartments, valet parking, fountains in front. That's where he was living. He wasn't at the rental house. My parents were. Lucas had taken my money, cleaned up their mess, and dropped them off like used furniture. He was already living his next lie. Probably told his new girlfriend some version of the story where he was the victim, the hero, the misunderstood genius. I knew that version well. It was the same one my parents believed for decades. And now I was the idiot who'd handed him the escape plan. 2 days later, I got a text from Mom. She asked if I could help with groceries. Said the rental didn't come with a fridge and they were eating out of a cooler. I ignored it. The next day, another message. This time from Dad. Said the utility company was threatening to shut off the gas. Wanted to know if I could spot them a little extra. Until Lucas got things sorted. I waited. The third message came from Mom again, and this one caught me off guard. She sent a photo of an overdue medical bill. Something about tests she needed. Said she wasn't asking for herself, just letting me know in case I wanted to help. I finally called her. Told her I'd already given them $30,000. That it was enough to get them out of their hole and give them a clean start. That I wasn't their bank. I was polite. Calm. Even said I was glad they were safe now. She didn't argue. Just said okay, like she knew it was coming. Like maybe she even expected it. That night Lucas called. He didn't ask for money. He just wanted to clear the air. Said he knew things had gotten messy. Said he'd moved out because the stress was affecting his marriage, and that his wife needed space. I told him I saw him with someone else. There was a long silence. Then he laughed. Said you always were good at digging. And then he hung up. 2 days later my mom called again. I didn't pick up. Then again. And again. It became daily. Always around the same time, like she was setting a timer. Whispering voicemails, asking for a little money, or just to talk, or just to hear my voice. Said Dad wasn't doing well. That they might need to move again. That Lucas was busy and had his own life now. No acknowledgement of the betrayal. No apology. Just a new script. One where I was suddenly the reliable son, the one they could turn to. I didn't respond. I focused on my own life. My job. My kids. My wife, who never once pressured me to do more or less than what I already had. She trusted my judgment. And she was right to. But then something strange happened. I started getting notifications from Facebook. People I hadn't heard from in years. Family members from my dad's side, second cousins, distant relatives. Some were messaging me. Some were tagging me in posts I couldn't see. I logged in, something I almost never do, and there it was. A post from my mother. A long one. Public. She wrote about betrayal. About how some people turn their backs on their blood. How they pretend to be saviors but are only interested in revenge. How after everything they were abandoned by their own son. My name wasn't in it, but it didn't have to be. The comments were full of pity. Old family friends saying they were heartbroken for her. Distant relatives offering prayers. Even someone from our old church saying they couldn't believe Ethan would do that. That's when I knew. None of this would ever change. Not the lies. Not the rewriting of history. Not the guilt games. They didn't want help. They wanted control. And I wasn't giving it to them anymore. After I saw the post, I closed the laptop and didn't open it again for 3 days. I didn't tell Sarah. I didn't even mention it when my cousin Greg, one of the few from my family who ever treated me like a human being, texted me with a screenshot asking, "You seeing this crap?" Yeah, I'd seen it. And I'd seen enough. I waited a few days to cool off. Took the kids hiking on Saturday. Watched my daughter try to rescue every bug on the trail. Watched my son finally fix that scooter with a part he'd welded himself. Sarah made her famous chili Sunday night, and we sat around the table laughing about something I've already forgotten. Normal. Quiet. Ours. On Monday morning, I packed up the box my mom brought and drove it to the donation center. I kept the email thread, the only real thing of value in there. Everything else went into the bin. Then I deleted their numbers from my phone. Blocked them on Facebook. Set my email to filter anything with their last names straight into trash. I was done. 2 days later, they showed up at my office. I saw them through the glass before they even reached reception. My mother and father, looking completely out of place in the lobby. My dad was holding some envelope, like this was going to be a formal exchange of words or apologies. Like this was a business deal. I met them in the parking lot before they could come in. Told them we weren't going to do this here. Told them they needed to leave. My dad started talking, but I cut him off. Told him everything I had to say was said already, with $30,000. That was the end of the line. I reminded him I had my own family now. That he never once asked about his grandkids. Not one birthday. Not one hello. That this sudden interest in my life had nothing to do with love and everything to do with convenience. My mom said something about family being forever. I told her that was true, until they made it temporary. They left. A week went by. No calls. No texts. Then too. I started to feel the dust settling. The house felt lighter. My kids never asked questions. They didn't even know who those people were. They just knew Dad seemed calmer. Then I got an email from HR. Someone had left a negative voicemail with the company line, claiming I was funneling corporate money to family members. Anonymous, but dumb. My boss forwarded it to me with a note. "You might want to handle this." I laughed. Because it was desperate. And because they were running out of ways to reach me. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. My reputation was clean, my records were solid, and the company knew me better than my own parents ever had. I told Sarah everything that night. Finally, the whole story. The emails. The court. The 30 grand. The BMW. The fake posts. The parking lot. All of it. She listened. Didn't interrupt once. And when I was done, she just nodded and asked one thing. "You done?" I said yeah. "Good," she said. "Because they don't get any more of you." 2 months passed. Quiet ones. No calls, no emails, no surprise visits. No cryptic Facebook posts either. It was like someone finally told them to cut it out, or they just got bored when the money ran dry. Whatever the reason, it felt like the storm had passed. And for the first time in a while, I actually believed it was over. Then I got a letter. Not an email. Not a voicemail. A real letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, spelled wrong, Ethan, on the envelope. Inside, 1 page. Typed. "You may want to know what's coming. Ask your brother." That's it. No signature. No threats. Just that one line. I wasn't scared. But I was curious. Because if there's one thing I've learned about people like my brother, it's that they don't know when to quit, but they also never do anything without a selfish reason. So I called Greg, my cousin in Cincinnati. Told him what I got. He just sighed and said, "You're gonna love this." Turns out Lucas had launched a new company. Not under his name, under mine. Or close enough. Ethan R. Holdings LLC. Registered in Delaware, with a fake address. My cousin spotted it because he checks legal records obsessively ever since getting burned in a bad real estate deal years ago. Lucas had been using my identity, altered just slightly, to apply for business lines of credit and loans. All under the radar. Nothing massive yet, but enough to raise red flags. Enough that if something went sideways, it would land in my lap. That was the real reason they'd gone quiet. He didn't want me snooping around. Didn't want me seeing what he was building, on my name. I called my lawyer immediately. We started locking everything down. Identity monitoring, credit freezes, notifications. The works. I filed reports, sent cease and desist letters, and pulled public records until every fake LLC tied to my name was flagged. Then I did one more thing. I posted. Just one message on Facebook. My first in years. To anyone following recent drama, I gave my family $30,000 to help them recover from a fraud case they were involved in. They used that money to lie, manipulate, and try to profit off my name. I won't be helping them again. I've said nothing for years, but now the truth is public. If you think that's cruel, feel free to unfollow. I'm at peace. They are not my problem. The fallout was fast. A few comments. Some distant relatives chiming in with the usual. This is between family. Garbage. But something had shifted. A few people messaged me privately, apologizing. Saying they didn't know the full story. One even told me Lucas had tried to pitch him a family investment fund just last month. That night my mom called again. I didn't answer. She left a message. "Ethan, this has gone too far. People are turning against us. You've made your point. Just stop." I deleted it without listening to the rest. The next morning, I sat on the porch drinking coffee. My daughter came out in her pajamas and asked if we could go to the park later. I said yes. Behind her, Sarah stepped outside, holding her phone. She handed it to me. It was Lucas. His name trending. Not because of me. Because someone else finally pressed charges. Another fraud. Bigger this time. A woman in Arizona. 6 figures missing. The news had it all. His name. His fake company. A blurry mugshot from the airport. I smiled. Not because he got caught. But because it had nothing to do with me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying their mess. I was free.